Okay, everyone, this is an amazing, amazing turnout. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm going to ask a personal favor for everyone to turn their phones off and put their phones away. We're very fortunate to have our dear friend and Rabbi Yaakov Cohen. This is one of my personal heroes. He's going to hate that I'm saying this, but I'm sure many of you know a lot of the life's journey that Rabbi Cohen has had, and to see him alive and teaching Torah and sharing Torah makes everything that much more significant and impactful. So please, you never know what you'll take out of a Torah class, especially when it's from a holy person. So we have an hour with Rabbi Cohen. This is a tremendous opportunity to try to really soak in what this amazing person has to share. So thank you all for being here. If any of you haven't helped out with dinner, we would appreciate that on your way out. Thank you so much. And without further ado, Rabbi Cohen, thank you so much for being here.
Do you do this every time?
For you, Rabbi.
Oh, God. Okay. All right. So here I was coming in. Was it a couple of Fridays ago? Last Friday? A couple of Fridays ago?
Yeah. A couple Fridays.
And you guys hit me with like all these questions, right? So, I'm not going to start with saying anything because I figured you guys got questions. A lot of people have questions when approached with the word Kabbalah. Okay, everybody might have had an experience or some kind of word or some kind of concept. And people have questions or myths, things that people might have heard. And if you don't want to start, Svi, then should I start for you? You had questions. Weren't they?
Yeah.
Think now. Think of questions that you have with it. Any issues? Okay, that's a good one. What is Kabbalah? Okay. Does anybody else have that question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where's the mom?
There's other questions that people have. What is the study of Kabbalah?
What is mystical?
Okay. So there is also many other questions that I know that people have, such as, don't you have to be like over 40 to learn that? Don't you have to what? And a man. There we go. Let's go. Come on, folks.
That's why they invite
real smart.
And real smart. You have to be real smart. You have to know all of Talmud. Chaim, let's go. You have to drink a lot of beer.
No. Actually, I plan to ask you something else. Is it giving you supernatural ability?
Okay. Is it going to give me a supernatural? Is it going to give me special powers? I want the powers.
Where's the magic?
Okay, so you understand that everybody usually when you think of Kabbalah, at least I knew that I don't know if it's 10 years ago or 20 or 50, I don't know how many years ago, where it was instantly people thought Madonna, Kabbalah, Madonna.
Red string.
It's like red string, Madonna. All those three that's it. All fused in one concept. Okay? Hollywood Kabbalah. What is it? Okay? And I thought that the craze kind of simmered down a little bit, Apparently from the size of this crowd, it didn't. Okay? So let's start with Svi's first question of what is Kabbalah. But let's hold on, and if I forget along the way, please remind me about the thing about 40, married, 2 kids, women, no women, right? And all that other kind of stuff, and mystical powers, or whatever, okay? So, you understand the word Kabbalah usually literally means, it comes from the root of kabel. Kibel, kuf beit lamed, which means to receive. So, it really means basically in general a received tradition. Okay? So what do we mean by received tradition? Meaning like that we know that there's a written law, we know that there's an oral law. And there's a big oral law. The oral law is very big. I'm sure you guys have been exposed to what oral law is. That Moshe, the written law that we have is we look at it as like the cliff notes to the lecture. It's not the lecture itself. And then you have the oral law, which is explaining basically the written law. Okay? You need both. Okay? After Talmud is your oral law, basically. So basically, it's a tradition, something handed down, but it's handed down from way before. You understand? From even Avram Avinu. One of our oldest books that we have in Kabbalistic literature is called the Book of Formation, the Sefer Yetzirah. Heard about that? Anybody ever heard about that? Book of Formation. Rabbi Kaplan translated it, believe it or not. Okay, and it's one of the oldest books said to be written by Abraham, by Avram Avinu, and it wasn't written down until many years later by Rabbi Akiva. But they say Avram Avinu had this mystical book. They say even Adam Arishon had a mystical book. Okay, that when he got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, he cried, and he was crying, and God said, "Oh, I feel bad for the guy. Oh, go ahead, give him the book." And so an angel came down and gave him the book. Okay? And this book, actually, is called Sefer Raziel. Raziel HaMalach. It was given to him by an angel who gave him the secrets, gave him some secrets back. So they called the name of the Sefer Raziel HaMalach. You can get it probably on Amazon, for sure. Okay?
The original.
I don't know about the original.
Copy.
Signed copy.
Dog. Okay. So actually, it's not really the real book that you can order on Amazon. Didn't come from him, but it's said to be handed down. Also, tradition, which has to have many mystical names in it. By the way, people buy it now. I encourage all of you to go ahead and get one. You can get it for about $6. Okay, and it's said to have properties of like an amulet. You know what an amulet is? It's said because it has names of various angels and forces in it, people have it in their house and it protects against fires and theft and all kinds of mishaps.
Balsam?
What?
Do Jews not carry balsam for that purpose?
Did you say balsam?
Balsam. Healing.
Tehillim.
Yeah.
Oh, Psalms. Yes.
Psalms, sorry.
Not the same. Psalms is good. Psalms is great. You can read Psalms. You can understand Psalms. This book you can't understand. Okay? Right? I tried. What? Raziel. Sefer Yetzirah, you can get a translation, Raziel. Somebody tried to make a translation. I even ordered it. I returned it the next day. Because I felt the dark arts. I felt dark. I felt darkness around it, and it just didn't seem right. So I have the Hebrew book on my shelf, and that's good to go. And I tried to go ahead and decipher it once, and, anyways, I went to other things. So basically, it's a big tradition, but it's a tradition of, that's correct, mystical arts. But we do have, handed down, also, a lot of this huge body of teaching. But, the teaching is basically divided into 3 parts. Okay? You'll have what's called theoretical Kabbalah. And then you'll have meditative Kabbalah. And then you'll have the practical Kabbalah. Okay? So the theoretical Kabbalah, also all handed down. Moses from Sinai had it, right? Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, they all had this body of wisdom that's really, really deep wisdom, and we're going to explore what it is, okay? But this body of wisdom that has been handed down, Moshe, all the way down, all of the sages, all the prophets, they all had this body of wisdom, okay? And so basically, the first time that the wisdom was written down, except for Rabbi Akiva, who wrote the Book of Formation. His student, whose name is Shimon Bar Yochai, who was in a cave for 13 years, and he learned from Elijah the prophet. And he came out, and him and his group wrote what's called the Book of the Zohar. The Book of the Zohar is basically the esoteric commentary of the 5 books of Moses. Basically, it explains the 5 books of Moses in a completely different way. Okay? That you would look at it very simply. Yes, when the daughter of a priest will be to a strange man, you can understand if a daughter of a priest, the father's a Cohen, she's a daughter of a Cohen, when she's somebody who's not a Cohen, there's laws that apply. right? When the daughter of a priest will beat the strange man, you think of this verse, okay. But then it has deep mystical meanings behind, that it is clothed in all of these words and concepts that teaches you about the soul. Because really the Torah is teaching you about the soul, okay? The whole idea, the whole concept of God giving the Torah is about how to connect to the infinite, okay? Have you ever heard that concept before? The Torah is for what? How to connect to the infinite. Hi, I'm Infinity. Pleased to meet you at Mount Sinai. Here's a manual. Go ahead. Go for it, okay? But basically, it's a very deep book, and it goes into very big layers, as we know, that there's like different layers of the Torah. There's the outside level, which is the simple level, and then there's deeper levels and a deeper level, and then there's the most deepest level. Well, Shimon Bar Yochai, who came out of the cave at 13, wrote the book of the Zohar, this esoteric understanding concept of the 5 books of Moses, but nobody could understand it. Nobody could grasp it. It was like what is he talking about? Concepts and weirdness. Nobody could make sense. Until the 16th century, where there was a Kabbalist, a leading Kabbalist, Rabbi by the name of Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, known as the Ari, came and he was basically able to explain this unbelievably text, which nobody can make any sense out of, like an open book. Boom. Okay? So then he is responsible, and what I said, there was 3 different categories of this study. He basically explained what we call the theoretical. He explained the spiritual realm and everything that has to do with the spiritual realm and our realm in the way of a vision, and the way I understand it, and that it's been taught to me, is it's a map. It's a map. We have a map. Okay? So that's the theoretical. Then there's the meditative. And then there are handed down traditions to meditate on certain names, divine names. Okay? And there's many meditations, and God willing, in Yirtzeh Hashem, God willing, after Rosh Hashanah, I'm going to do a meditation class, just for beginners. Okay? Come and explore, okay, what Jewish meditation is. It's become a lost tradition in the past 200 years. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, inherited a closet, a big closet, full of books all on meditation. He had it all put away. Put it into Geniza because he wanted to lead all of his students to a different path. Okay? But there are many, 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 many books we have in our tradition that are very involved in deep meditative Kabbalah. We used to be people who meditated. Did you know that? Not just the Hindus. Okay? Yeah, it used to be part of our daily practice to go meditate. As a matter of fact, the Siddur, has anybody been in a shul? Anybody opened a prayer book? Prayer book? You know, a prayer book? Oh, I don't know. I don't know where everybody's coming from. That's why I tried to get some questions from you. Really, it's supposed to be a meditation. Okay? It needs to, nowadays, Hashem should help us. May God help us the way it is done now. Okay? Things done by rote are very dangerous. Okay? When we do these kind of practices. As we'll discover. And then there's the third type. So there's the theoretical. What's the map? Right? The map of the spiritual realm. There's streets, there's avenues, there's dimensions. You need that in order to do the second part with the meditative, because you got to know where to go. When you're going, you got to know where to go. Because if you don't have a map, right? I got lost in San Diego because of my phone charger, went out of commission. So I couldn't charge my phone. So I was driving in a strange city, not knowing where to go, and I needed to find a phone charger. I couldn't even find a Target or a Walmart. Okay? You need to know where to go in the spiritual realm. And then there's the practical. Now the practical is not really so much practiced anymore, so much by so many people, but there are those that do. There's a Kabbalist who I know, an American Kabbalist. His name is Rabbi Ariel Bartzada. Wonderful man. I met him. He also learned with my father-in-law in the same yeshiva in Jerusalem. I learned under my father-in-law. He was the one who taught me the wisdom. I didn't just pick up a book and figure it out myself. I haven't even really figured it out totally, to tell you the truth. Okay? but it is my passion, and we'll explain why. But in any case, Rabbi Bart Tzadok said, he knows somebody who actually can make a golem these days. Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan. You know what a golem is? Anybody heard of that? A golem is basically, well, there's a Gemara. There's a passage in the Talmud where these two sages would get together on a Friday morning. They would learn this book called the Book of Formation. They would make a calf out of clay, and they would put life into it, so they became a live cow, and then they would slaughter it and eat it for Shabbat. Right? What a meal. Right? Did it taste like dirt? What did it taste like? Okay? In any case, that's what golem is, and there was a story, Maharal of Prague in the 15th century, where he made a man out of clay to protect the Jewish community in the city of Prague. Did the same thing out of clay, put a spirit into it, and the thing walked around. Some people claim that's where Mary Shelley got her Frankenstein story from. She couldn't put a rabbi in the story, Those anti-Semites. What? It's too Jewish. Too Jewish.
No, Frankenstein.
Oh, Frankenstein. Stein. You have to. In any case, he made a man out of clay, and it was, but even Aryeh Kaplan, who translated the work of this Book of Formation, he was talking to somebody, about, and the guy, he seemed to have doubts. This student who he was talking with, he says, "What? You think it's so hard to make a golem? Come to me on Sunday." This is what Aryeh Kaplan said. Come by me on Sunday. And this guy, he knew how Aryeh Kaplan's, sometimes he was, how sometimes he lost it. I mean, lost it big time. I mean, like things would fly off the table. He'd get angry and everything off the table would go flying, right? He had that kind of temper. So he didn't go. He didn't want to go on Sunday.
Right? Aren't golems like zombies? They're not evil entities. They're like, I don't know.
And they eat human flesh.
No, they don't eat them. They're just like...
They don't speak. That's right. They don't speak. They don't speak, and they do whatever that the master commands. Literally, like the famous story of Mickey Mouse and the Wizard, right? With the buckets of water, they took it from us. Okay. So in any case, the practical also is practiced. That's an extreme idea of the practical, but some people even practice today certain things. One of the main things that people practice in the practical Kabbalah is they do what's called a goral. A goral is an interesting thing. A person who has a burning question. Should I marry this person or not? Okay? Or should I do this job or not? So there's certain books that you can do, that you can ask a question, and you open the book, and based on what the instructions tell you, right, it will give you an answer.
I heard about that guy. There's a guy that he's performing in one of the radios in Israel.
Oh, I thought it was Vegas.
No, not in Vegas.
Okay.
In Israel, there's one guy, he calls himself Netanel Cohen. He's one of these that, pulling the Zohar and then pull his number. And
Right. So you have to be very, I'm telling you now, I'm warning, and it's on camera, you have to be very careful.
Like
When you get into practical, who you're dealing with. Now, I did go when I was young. When I was first in yeshiva, I was Rebbe hunting. I was not hunting I had my rabbis, but I was into seeing every single Kabbalist I could see, okay, to get a tikkun. Tikkun means a rectification. For them to, tell me what I need to do, right? Give me the path, right? What do I need to fix? I'd go to any Kabbalist, except for there's one Kabbalist I didn't make it to, which is a Chaval. That was Baba Sali. Okay? Baba Sali, Zechusa Yagein Aleinu, may his merit protect us, right? Him, they had actually real stories. I heard people say it over Baba Sali. Many, many wonders were done through him. Many wonders were also done through the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Many wonders by the Baba Sali. Everybody says, Rabbi Weinberger said, I heard it in tape, he was there, he saw it. where he had a room full of people, right? 5 times as many as we have here. He had 1 bottle of wine. He wrapped the bottle in a napkin, right? Cloth napkin, and then he poured cups for every single person in the entire place with 1 bottle. And then he puts the bottle down, and then he takes the napkin off, and there's still some left in the bottle. Save a lot of money on wine. Okay.
Some people here might want that.
The Goral, so the Goral is done many times. People who have questions can go ahead and consult this. I've done it myself in the past. When I was teaching in a high school for Russian students, one Russian wanted to go visit his parents in the Ukraine, and because he was 18, he was afraid that he was going to get drafted into the Ukrainian army because of his age and things like that. And he wanted to consult the book, and I helped him. I did it to see if he would return safely. And the answer blew me away. It said that the trip of the Bechor will be good and successful. And lo and behold, he didn't get trapped, he didn't get stuck, and he came right there. No problem. Okay? But, so in any case, and there's many other forms of practical. One of the most simplest that people do, they call it a segula. A segula, a lot of times, a segula, hard to translate the word segula. Have you ever heard of the word segula before? Anybody? Segula is like an action that can perpetuate a certain effect. It seems like a simple action in the outside, but really it has a deep thing to it. Like one segula, a great segula, is I was single for many years in the yeshiva. I wanted to get married desperately. And if you hold one of the poles of the chuppah, and somebody else is getting married, if you hold one of the poles, it'll perpetuate you to be the next chatan, the next, guy, right? Just like if they throw the flowers, the lady throws the flowers, whoever catches the flowers, and I think that's a custom among the Gentiles.
Yeah.
Like, right? In any case, if you hold the pole, you'll get married. It's a segula. It has a special property for you to get married. Okay? Once we lost our car keys in San Antonio. My father-in-law was there. Okay? And my mother-in-law, she knows the right verse. We lost our car keys, couldn't find them. Great. And we're in the car already. We're waiting to go. And I'm going, where are the car keys? They weren't in the usual spot. Where are they? I looked all over the house. They sent the mother-in-law in. My mother-in-law, right? My mother-in-law knows the phrase. There's a certain phrase. Rabbi Uzan knows it too. It's the Amar Rebbe Binyamin phrase. Rebbe Binyamin says everything, and you say this verse and you give a little coin to tzedakah to find your lost object. Okay, you're all going to come probably text me afterwards, or you can probably Google it. Okay, really you can. It's on there. It's all on Google. Okay, you say, says Rebbe Binyamin, everything is in a status quo of being hidden from the eyes, and Hashem opens up the eyes of Israel. You give a little coin to tzedakah, and then you search for your object. She comes out of that house. I'm telling you, 3 minutes later. Okay, she goes in the house. She comes out with the keys, and we're going, where were they? They were in the dryer. Who would ever think to find the keys in the dryer? She found them in the dryer. This is my father-in-law who's sitting right next to me. He's a Makubal. But he is very funny, Brooklyn-style Makubal. He just turns to me very calmly, and he goes, he's referring to his wife, right, by the way. He says, my wife is a witch. Okay. Theoretical, meditative, practical. Okay? Now, there were some other questions. Okay, so it's a tradition. It's a very deep body of wisdom. Okay? I cannot, I wish I could convey in the depths of my heart how important this wisdom is. Okay? The redemption of our people, the redemption of the world, believe it or not, depends upon this wisdom. All the calamities and the destructive events, according to the Sulam, is because of the lack of study or attentiveness to this wisdom. So first I'm going to, before I explain that, first let's get to some of the other questions. Why do you have to be 40? Or why a man? Okay? What other questions were they? What other things? Okay? What'd you say? Knowing Talmud. You have to know the entire body of wisdom. Okay? Good one. Right? Most people say, oh, you got to know the entire revealed Torah before you study the hidden Torah. Okay? Has anybody ever heard that before? Maybe? Okay? So, Baruch Hashem, like I say, and it worked this way, this is the first Kabbalah Sefer that I studied. I had to sneak out of my yeshiva after 8 years. My life, I was studying night and day, Talmud, and I needed something a little bit more. And so I snuck out of the yeshiva, and I learned in a place in the old city by Rabbi Brandwein. And he learned from a Kabbalist called the Sulam, or Rabbi Yehuda Leib Ashlag. Rabbi Yehuda Leib Ashlag actually has his great-grandchildren live here in the city. When I got this book, I tell you, I wanted to put on Shabbos clothes because the wisdom that was in this book was so amazing. And it helped me so much explain why I'm here, the purpose of why we're here, assuming that we're creations. And it answered the question so directly and so simply that, yes, it blew me away. It was like, why wasn't that explained to me years ago? So the biggest question that it did answer was, what's the purpose of creation? Right? We talked a little bit about this, right, Steve? What's the purpose of creation? So if I ask you, guys, if I would ask you right now, Judaism 101, what's the purpose of creation?
Get closer to God.
Yes, good one. Anybody else?
Process the world.
Process the world. That means put potato chips in it? Like,
No, like, God,
with oils and all kinds of other...
God made the world, but like, what's it to Him? It's for us to, experience and like to shape and like do things.
Beautiful. Got something?
Maybe along the same path, but maybe experience life and see that there is only one way to go.
Do all agree that is everybody on the same, do we all feel that we're a creation? Do we all? Some people are maybe, So there's a creator. He created us for a reason, right? We're here for a reason. Okay? Anybody else?
God can be defined as kind, unless He has something to bestow His kindness on.
Okay.
So we have to make them.
Nice one. Right? So all of the answers are true. The way that they explained it, it just hit me into such a deep spot. Okay? And it is called, the principle simply is called the Nama de Ksufa. Nama de Ksufa means bread of shame. Has anybody ever heard that before? Bread of shame. Bread of shame. God made a creation in order to, what? 2 words. Bestow pleasure. If I test you, if I wake you up at 3 in the morning, you better be able to answer me. If I text you at 4 in the morning. 2 words. What's the purpose of creation? Bestow pleasure. God wanted, willed. He doesn't need. He willed to bestow pleasure. Okay? So instantly, when it went up on his mind to bestow pleasure, I want to give. So instantly had to be created something outside of him that is going to receive that pleasure. Follow? If he went, all of a sudden, if you can say in such a point that it went upon God's mind at a certain time, God willed to bestow pleasure, instantly had to be created an entity to receive that pleasure. And the way we look at it as a universal soul, picture it, follow me now, a universal soul that was receiving that pleasure. Okay? There go my M&Ms, but that's all good. All good. Reason for everything. So instantly was created, as soon as God willed to bestow pleasure, instantly had to be created something that's going to receive it. Something's got to receive, right? If I want to give, something's got to receive. Now picture now one universal soul that's receiving all this pleasure. It turns to God and it says, I don't want it. I don't want it. And God says, what? Right? Yes, exactly. It's because you made me in your image and your likeness. And I can't just taking this thing for free all the time. I have to give something in return. I can't. So they call it the principle of the bread of shame, because the poor man is not able to look into the face of the rich man who is giving him his bread every day. The poor man cannot look into the face of the giver because of the embarrassment. It's a natural inclination of a receiver to have an embarrassment. Okay? Nowadays, not so sure. Okay? But generally, in the internal workings, a person is embarrassed to just take and take and take. They want to give to. So the soul says to God, I don't want it. So God says, okay, I'm going to make a world. I'm going to hide myself in that world. I'm going to put you in that world. And through the power of your exercising your free choice, you're going to choose the goodness that I'm going to give you. And then, boom, all of a sudden, here you are. You are a soul cast from the highest places. Chelik Elokami Ma'al, we say a portion of the living God. You're carved from God's essence, strung down here into a body in complete darkness, and you have free choice. And your choices are you going to fulfill my will? Or are you going to earn the pleasure that I'm going to give you? Or not? Okay, or as my dad puts it, we get to choose. You get to choose to have it all, or you get to choose how much less than all you will have. You get to choose to have it all, or you get to choose how much less than all you will have. So with the power of our free choice, we have to overcome what we call the bread of shame through our work in Torah and mitzvahs and processing the world, making the world a better place. Okay? God left this world to be not perfect. It's not a perfect world. And we are cast into this place in order to rectify ourselves into being agents or beings that can receive the good. Now, next step. What is the nature of that unbelievable pleasure that God wants to bestow? Himself. There's nobody greater. He has it. He has it all. He came up with Starbucks. Okay? He invented chocolate, the best chocolate. Right? He is the source of every single any pleasure that you could possibly imagine. He is the root source of the greatest of pleasures that you can't even imagine, that are way beyond. He is the source of it all. So in essence, God wants to give himself. God made a creation in order to what? Bestow pleasure. So he wants to bestow, in essence, himself. The idea really is to connect to God. Now, there are so many ways you can describe it. It's almost like a hide-and-go-seek game. You have to go find God, okay? Because he doesn't make it easy. He doesn't make it easy, okay? It's real, okay? It's real. So the idea then is this, and this is what the Sulam explained that was so dynamic, is that, so God wants to give. We're a creation. We have to receive, but we have to earn that receiving. Okay. Torah mitzvahs. Okay. But then he goes the next step. He says, what is the essence? I mean, how do you define spiritual proximity as opposed to physical proximity? Physical proximity is close in bodies. Spiritual proximity, how do you define being close spiritually? Very nice. Very nice. So basically, we look at it, we explain that in two words. It's called, in Hebrew, Hashvat Atzura, or we call it equation of form. To equal forms. When two entities are the same form, they are attached. What do we mean by the same form? Which means, let's say, take two people. Okay? We take Eric and Svi. Okay? I'm just in random name. let's say Eric likes the Spurs. I'm sorry, San Antonio. Let's go with Houston. Okay? Who's the football team in Houston? Texans. He likes the Texans. Texans, chocolate ice cream, and the Rolling Stones. Okay? And let's say Svi likes the exact same things. Okay? And let's say he dislikes fish. That means all forms of fish. He dislikes, right? And let's say he hates AC/DC, and he hates Led Zeppelin. Okay. But let's say, to the degree that Svi and Eric like and hate the same things, we would say that that is their degree of attachment. Like things. Birds of a feather flock together, like things who are the same form, will attach. Okay? So we got a problem. We got a big problem. God only likes to give. He doesn't know anything about receiving. He doesn't need to receive from anybody. He makes a creation, and built into that creation is this like receiving principle. We have to receive. Yeah? So he instantly has built this thing that has to receive. That's pretty... They're the farthest things apart. I don't know, I have a phase, I have some teenagers and in my life, and teenagers just, Dad, I want the car keys. Dad, you got money. Dad, you got this. Dad, thanks. Bye. No connection. Okay? Because I'll take this, I'll take that, but there's no giving, no response. Okay? A lot of people have experience. So there's no relationship. If this thing is only taking and I'm only giving, so there's no relationship. It's very distant. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Yeah. So here we are, we're stuck in this world, and we're stuck with what we call a will to receive. And we have to take our will to receive and you have to convert it. You can't do it without Torah and mitzvahs. You can't convert your will to receive, which is an ingrained trait, part of our very essence of our being. We run to pleasures, we run away from pain. It's a given fact of all of humanity. They will always run away from painful situations, and they'll always run towards pleasurable situations unless they're completely crazy. This is the exact opposite of God, who is only involved in giving. So how do we do that? This is our pekula. Okay, pekula means our package. This is our mission. We have this will to receive ingrained in all of us, and we have to take that will to receive, and you have to convert it. You have to convert it into a special type of receiving. This type of receiving is actually, there's actually what's called a giving through receiving. A giving.
Rectification from doing something good.
What?
Rectification from doing something good.
Do you call it rectification?
Gratification.
What?
Gratification.
Gratification. Yes. Yes. But here I'm going to give you an example which makes it real down to earth. Okay? Imagine that there's a man who's in town. He's a host. He has plenty of guests that come through his house, and he loves to have guests. And one time there was this acquaintance who had come in. He's passed by before, and this scholarly gentleman, he invites him to his house, and he's having this great conversation with him, Torah, philosophy, beautiful things. So exciting. This host really loves his guest. He likes this man. And he says, please, I want to give you some food. Can I give you some food? Can I give you something to eat? And so the guest, he's a little bit embarrassed. So the guest is embarrassed, and he says, no, that's okay. No thanks. So they're talking a little bit more, and then, the host is saying, please, I really want to give you some food. Let me give you some food. And the guest is saying, no, it's okay. And then they're talking a little bit more, and finally the host is in pain because he really wants to give so badly. He wants to give so badly. And so finally at that time, the guest says, okay, I'll take some. Now the host is very, very happy. He goes and he gets his servants. He's excited. He's jumping around the house. He's getting food together, and he gives them, and he's so happy. This guest who's receiving is actually, through his receiving, follow me, he's actually giving to his host. He's giving gratification to his host. His host is very happy that he's finally able to give. So his receiving is actually giving. You follow? There's two kinds of receiving. There's receiving for the sake of receiving. Me, I, ego. And then there's the other type of receiving where, what? I'm not going to take it unless I'm giving something for it. Unless there's something being given over. whatever that it might be, gratification. These kind of concepts awakened me very greatly because you know why? It explained our existence in a nutshell. Why are we here? To receive pleasure. What are we supposed to be doing? We have to be converting our will to receive into a will to receive that we're actually bestowing. Okay? All of the mitzvahs of the Torah do that. Okay? But there's a whole deep level. Okay? Now, let me explain another question, because we had a question about why men. Why, 40? Why you have to have kids? Some people say you have to have kids, 2 kids. Okay? And I'm going to cut to the chase here. Okay? A lot of the things. Okay, first of all, there's 2 types of Kabbalah. Rav Chaim Vital brings down a very simple explanation. He writes in his introduction to Sefer HaKdamot, he brings down that really a person, in order to study this esoteric wisdom, needs to have his belly filled with Talmud and Mishnah. And then he goes on to say, actually I'll quote it to you right now. This, by the way, is a translation of this, only 2 of the introductions of this. I found this recently, and it was really fantastic. Okay? It's a great translation. Really, I'm considering going back to it. So he says here, to quote his words, "A man should not say, I will go and practice Kabbalah before I practice the Torah, the Mishnah, and the Talmud. For the rabbis have already said, no one should study Kabbalah if they have not already filled their belly with Mishnah and Talmud. This would be like a being of a soul without a body, lacking any contact with the physical world, because you can't be so spiritual that you're no earthly good, right? Never know people like that? Airheads, right? Look, mention, right? A person is not fully incarnate until he becomes involved in the physical level. You have to. You have to be involved in the physical world. You have to know Torah. You have to know what to do, okay? In terms of mitzvah, okay? But the opposite, his words, they only teach this in yeshiva. They don't go on, by the way. Most yeshivas, they only go up until here, and then they stop, okay? They don't read the rest of the words. They go, okay, my belly's not full yet, so when I get there at 120, maybe I'll study Kabbalah. Okay? So he goes on.
Thank you for your class, Rabbi.
Am I over? Oh, yeah, I am. This is where they stop. I'm telling you, I had. When I bought this book, I had to hide it behind my Gemara when I wanted to study, understand? And there were still nosy bodies who would have to walk up and walk behind me to see what I was learning. And they grab it and they go, Kabbalah! Okay? In my days. Okay? Nowadays it's becoming more predominant. Because they say as Mashiach comes, the closer to Mashiach, these things need to be revealed in the world. We'll get to it in just 2 minutes. Okay? He says this would be, okay, so anyways, the classic paradigm that they tell every person is, you got to be full of Mishnah and Talmud. Okay? But the opposite is also true. I'm continuing with his words. Rav Chaim Vital, by the way, was the main student of the Ari, the biggest 16th century Kabbalist. He was the main student. Okay? The Arizal never wrote down anything. Rav Chaim Vital, his main student, he wrote down everything. Okay? He says the opposite is also true. If someone studies Mishnah and Talmud without also spending time in studying the innermost parts of the Torah and its secrets, he is like a body sitting in darkness, lacking a human soul, which is the light of God that shines within. The body becomes dry because it is not taking from Torah the source of life. Therefore, a student who wishes to practice Torah for its own sake, that means Torah Lishma, he needs to start by occupying himself with Bible, Mishnah, Talmud, absorbing from that as much as his intellect can gather. Afterwards, he should turn to the practice of Kabbalah and come to know his Creator. And through the Torah, he will come to know his Creator like what King David commanded his son, know the Lord, your Father, and serve him. Da et Elokei avicha va'avdehu. Know Hashem, who is your Father, and serve him. Know him. The object is the study of Kabbalah will attune you to really know God. You could know God, and then you could know a person. Okay? But if a person finds that the study of Talmud is burdensome, and it's hard for him, it is best that he leave it and turn to the practice and study of the true wisdom. Kabbalah has a nickname. You know what the nickname is? Chachmat ha'emet. Chachmat ha'emet. Wisdom of the truth. That means the wisdom of what really is. Meaning what's really going on. So if the Talmud is burdensome and hard for him, it is best that he leave it and turn to the practice and study of the true wisdom, which is the Kabbalah. And this is what is meant by the passage of the Talmud. If a student of Torah does not see a sign of blessing in his studies after 5 years, he never will. Have you ever heard that statement before? If a person studies Torah for 5 years and doesn't see a siman bracha, a sign of a blessing, shuv lo yireh, he will not see one. So it's an astounding phrase, because I was in yeshiva 10 years. And after I was 5 years, believe me, I was asking people, what is it? I didn't get married. Things weren't going so great in my life, right? After 5 years, of course, the answer was very classic. You really haven't started learning yet. Okay? That's okay. I understood that answer. But accordingly to what he says, if you don't have an edge over your evil inclination, if you haven't connected, if you don't feel a greater connection after 5 years of learning, you better change the way you're learning. You better change what you are learning. That's if you've been studying Talmud for 5 years and you haven't connected, you better move on to something else. And his recommendation is what? However, everyone who does put their focus on the study of Kabbalah should spend, in other words, if you've left the study of Talmud and you've decided to spend some time in Kabbalah, should spend still a small portion of the day studying halacha and practicing answering practical questions. You have to know what to do. You still have to know halacha. So the idea really is, if a person doesn't feel that there's a connection, so then Rabbi Chaim Vital, the master Kabbalist, recommends even those people should go ahead and study this wisdom. Now, nowadays, if you'll ask any Kabbalist, they'll tell you you have to study Talmud, you have to study Mishnah, but it has to be equal. Because some people will tend to, because of the nature of this study, and I didn't get to the thing that he brings down, that there are two types of study of wisdom, of this wisdom. There's two types of Kabbalah. One is called Sisrei Torah. That's called the hidden part of the Torah. And then there's called Ta'amei Torah. Ta'amei Torah literally means flavors of the Torah. Right? And this, not only does he say, is it not forbidden to learn, but it is a mitzvah to study. And not only then, he goes on to say, the redemption of the Jewish people and the world depends upon this portion of Torah. Ta'amei Torah means the reasons of the Torah. Believe me, when you start to understand the reasons why you do things, believe me, it makes it much more flavorful, doesn't it? I mean, do you ever seen a Havdalah service before? Do you ever know when they make the flame and everybody makes a blessing, Borei Morei Ha'esh? And what does everybody do? What do you do that for?
To see the light of the fire through your neck.
Why?
You can see it clear.
What were you originally covered in?
Very good.
Also,
Very good.
in the Zohar, doesn't it talk about spirit on one side of the hand?
See, already you're coming up with this, right? How many people do you think know this? How many people just go like this and they have no idea what the heck they're doing?
Yeah, I heard like.
Now, see that? You see a lot of. You're supposed to see the difference between your nails and your skin. Because the nails was Adam Arishon's skin before he ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It was transparent. It was shining. It wasn't hard. But it was transparent and shining. His skin, he was covered in this kind of reflective brightness. Okay, transparent, reflective brightness. Only after the Garden of Eden, all of our skin and all of our body became this congealed skin that we have now. We have to see the difference between these two. And don't forget, Adam Arishon, there's a midrash which says that Adam Arishon, at Motzi Shabbos, he was kicked out of the garden, was sitting in the dark. God put intuition into his mind to put two rocks together to make fire. That's the fire. The fire really, it brings us back to the idea, the concept of here we're beginning our week. And we have to understand from where we came from, where we are now, and where we're trying to get to. In the beginning of the week, you always want to focus, just like the beginning of the day. You look at your schedule, what am I doing today? Well, most people do, not me. Okay? Beginning of the week, you have to understand in our spiritual journey what we're supposed to be doing. Okay? That's the whole idea of the fire. See, if you understand the reasons for things, it gives it more depth. I'm going to end off with this last few minutes. Okay? Why? First of all, the idea of mixing men and women. Okay? And so I said there's Sisrei Torah, which is forbidden, and that's like, we call it Ma'aseh Merkava, the working of the chariot, working of Breshit. Those are definitely forbidden. I don't even know that. Mostly any book that you go out and find that is printed is considered to be the second category. We call it flavors of the Torah, right? The mystical aspects, and those are a mitzvah to learn. Okay, they are not forbidden at all because they're printed. Don't forget, Rav Chaim Vital printed books. Okay, and they knew that these books will fall into the wrong hands. They knew that evil people will look at these books. They had no fear whatsoever. Okay, when a book gets printed, there's no more greater revealing secrets than that. Okay, so there's no real secrets that shouldn't be revealed that are in these books. And now, okay, so there's Sisrei Torah and there's Tamei Torah. Okay, there's revealed Torah, or flavorings of Torah. So now he gets into something very, something very deep. But before that, to answer the question of, a person should not, in terms of some deep aspects, even of the flavors of the Torah, shouldn't be studied in mixed company, because a lot of it has to do with intimacy. A lot of the imagery that is in the books has to do very much so with man and woman being together. Okay? A lot of it. As we know, everybody will tell you that the house is like a little mini Beit HaMikdash, a little mini sanctuary, a little mini temple. The house is like a little mini temple. And the table is like an altar, and your Shabbos candles is like your menorah. And everybody will tell you all the parts. The kitchen is the slaughterhouse where the sacrifices were made. And everybody will tell you the bedroom is called the Holy of Holies. They won't tell you why. I mean, they'll tell you it's a Holy of Holies, it's a holy act. But there's so many mystical meanings behind intimacy, okay? And the act of intimacy, so the Kabbalah is very full of it, okay? So that's why I'm telling you one story, true story. Here I am at Purim with my father-in-law, and we're drinking wine on Purim as we usually do, and we're sitting and we're talking the stuff with my father-in-law, and all of a sudden the women come in from the kitchen, my wife and my mother-in-law, and they're going, "Come on, you guys, you're learning all day. Share with us some of your wisdom." My father-in-law chased them out. He says, "This is spiritual pornography. Get the hell out of here." Chased them right back in the kitchen. Okay? He used very sharp words, my father-in-law. Okay? So, but in a sense, that's why it's not recommended in many parts not to learn it in mixed company. Of course, husband and wife could learn it together. Okay? But not in mixed company because of the theme and the topics get very much into the act of intimacy. So that's why they don't recommend it. Women could learn with women, okay? And husbands can learn with wives, but they don't recommend mixed company, okay? 40 years old, like I say, it's not a problem because don't forget, this is Tamei Torah. When they speak about 40 years old, you have to be 40. They speak about talk about Sisrei Torah. The first person has to be besides all the other prerequisites that a person needs. He has to be very smart. He has to be able to understand. Those are called Sisrei Torah, but not the other part that I called flavorings of the Torah. The last and final thing, and this is why destructions happen, is because this thing, according to the Sulam, Rabbi Ashlag, he brings down most of the destructions and calamities and sicknesses and things in the world, bad things in the world happen because this is not emphasized and studied enough, this wisdom. And he explains it like this. Everything has an inner and an outer. Everything. has an inner and an outer. Your body is an inner and an outer, right? You'll have the inner parts, which are very vital, and you'll have outer parts, which are not so vital. They're all vital. My pinky toe is very vital. But God forbid, if a person would lose his pinky toe, he'd still live. Okay? But there are certain organs, inner organs, that you can't mess with. There's an inner and an outer in every single thing in the world. Every single in the world. And conceptually, there's an inner and an outer. In the Jewish people, there is an inner and there's an outer. In the world, among the nations, there's an inner and an outer. In Israel, let's say the Jewish people, there's an inner and an outer. The inner is those who are observant, those who study Torah and who are observant in the ways of Torah. And the outer of Israel are those who don't engage in Torah study. They're the non-religious. We love everybody, but we look at it as an inner and an outer. In the world, there's an inner and an outer. The inner part of the world we look at as the righteous Gentiles, the people who are upstanding, have integrity, and true and honest. And the outer part of the world are all of those nations who are very, very bent on violence. And they're very destructive. We call those the outer. Okay? You with me now? Follow me. In the inner part of the world, in relationship to Israel, Israel is the inner, the nations are the outer. What happens to Israel? It affects the outer world. When people turn their back on Israel, if you haven't seen it now until now, it usually has some kind of effect. Inside of Israel, inside of even the religious people, there is the inner and the outer. Among the religious, the inner are those people who study the Kabbalah. And then there's the outer people who study the revealed parts, Talmud, Mishnah. And in a person, all of us, there's an inner and an outer. Our outer is our bodies, and our inner is our souls. So if a person, how he views himself, and one of the big rules is we have called micro, macro. We look at what we do in the micro, on a micro level, has a tremendously powerful effect on the macro in the world. So how we treat ourselves, how we view ourselves, how we live in the world, affects not only the people around us, but everything in the outside. It has a reverberatory effect in the outside. How a Jew looks at himself, does he look at himself as if he's a soul, or is he a body with a soul? Is he a soul that has and the body is just a shoe, a garment? Or is he a body that has a soul? I have a soul. So in reality is, everything depends upon this view. If a person knows that I am a soul, and the soul is my essence, I have to feed my soul. I have to feed my soul. What do I feed my soul with? You can feed your soul with a whole smorgasbord of things. You can have Talmud, you can have Mishnah, and you can have the revealed parts of the Torah, or you can have the concealed parts of the Torah. You can have the Kabbalah. If you realize that these parts of the inner parts of the Torah are the essence, that's the real soul food, that's really going to feed your soul. And that's maybe you're not on a stage where you can take it right now, but as long as you know that's really the real soul food, this is good, I need this for now, I'll get to that, okay? What happens if you did the opposite? What happens if you said, nah, that stuff's not for me, it'll never be for me. This is enough for me. The outside parts. What happens if a person views himself as being just a body that maybe has a soul, maybe, and he views his body as being more essentially to take care of? The slight thought in his mind, that attitude, that shift, has a tremendous effect. Okay? That what happens? If he starts to think, my externals is more important, the revealed parts are more important, the inner parts not so important, my soul not so important, feeding my soul. It has a tremendous effect in the outside world. Because what happens? Then the outside part of Israel, who are the Hilonim, they look at the religious as not being so important. You follow the pattern, what I'm saying? So if the Hiloni, if the non-religious Jewish population views the religious population as being not really worth supporting, not really of value, then what happens in the world in general? The outer part of the nations view the inner part of the nations, and they view Israel, mostly, as being non-important and not valued. Bottom line, the Jew is the soul of the world. Okay? Conscience of the world. And if we were to view ourselves, and if we were to feed ourselves, if we were to understand what is going to elevate us, what is going to connect us, that this wisdom, I tell you from my heart, the depths of my heart, this wisdom is the ultimate connection. And if everybody would view this connection, you don't necessarily have to study it all day, okay? But to view it as is the most innermost, holiest of wisdoms. It's not Madonna, red string, okay? But it's the holiest of wisdoms and needs support and must be supported, as just like our inner organs need the best of care, as opposed to our external organs, okay? So when we review our souls, what feeds our souls, so then what happens? The world responds in kind. Imagine this. Imagine the non-religious people in Israel viewing the religious people of Israel, that they have value. We need them. They're worth supporting. Imagine that. Imagine that. Imagine that. Imagine that. Huh? They're worth supporting. Absolutely. I think it was Moshe Dayan who said that the soldiers would never have success in all of the wars if it wasn't for the yeshiva buffer learning in yeshiva. And I think to this day, that serves that all of the yeshiva students in the yeshiva get what's called a dichui. They get a deferment from the army. Those are the ones who are studying seriously. Okay? Because what happens? I mean, wouldn't that be a beautiful thing? If you were, for all of a sudden, there'd be a shift in Israel? And all of a sudden, all of the people who used to hate the religious Jews now love them and value them. And of course, the religious Jews will definitely value everybody, because they already do, right? And then what would happen? The entire world would then view Israel as being something very important. And then the entire world would view it valuable and worth supporting, because they would know that that's their soul. And then the external forces would have no power over the internal part of the Gentiles, the righteous Gentiles. The righteous Gentiles would have the upper hand and the upper say. And all those violent forces, and this is the reason, actually, the Sulam brings for the purpose of the Holocaust. Now, we don't know the reason for the Holocaust. There are many dissenting opinions for the Holocaust. I'm sorry for going over. But his reason, the Holocaust, was people left the study of Kabbalah in Europe. And they didn't value this wisdom. And because of that, it started a whole chain reaction. That what happened was, the religious people weren't looked upon as being something of value. And then the nations looked upon Israel as not having something of value. And that resulted in a terrible destruction. That's his view, just to give you a view. Don't forget, there's many different opinions, even in the Orthodox world, for the Holocaust. Yeah.
Why Israel viewing Jewish people in the world? Because at that time, the state of Israel was definitely before the Holocaust.
Yeah, we're talking about the Jewish people. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, folks. Any other questions? Yeah.
So, if you would recommend a book to start to study Kabbalah, what would you do?
It's a great book. This book here. In the Shadow of the Ladder, which is a translation of the Sulam, Rabbi Ashlag's works. It has only 2 translations are in here. It's a fantastic book, and it takes you step by step.
With the Ari translation for practical Kabbalah?
No, this is not. There's no practical Kabbalah in here. This is all theoretical, and it's more like Musardik. You know what Musardik means? Like ethical. It's very ethical style, because it trains, it's understanding our purpose of creation. And definitely, it is very enticing for a person to only want more and to continue his studies. But this is a great place to start, what I would recommend. Well, Rabbi Yehuda Leib Ashlag had a nickname. They called him the Sulam. They called him the Ladder.
Oh.
He was 19 years old, born in Europe, in Poland. He saw Poland just pre-Holocaust. He said, "You guys get out. This place is on fire. Get out. Anti-Semitism. We're all going to die here. You're going to die if you stay." He left. He ran. He came to Israel, and then he became the Rav of the Shechuna of Kiryat Moshe and lived there for several years and wrote the first translation into Hebrew of the Zohar.
But he didn't know the Ari because Ari didn't live in
No. The Ari was 16th century. He's recent.
Yeah.
He died in the 50s. So yeah.
Didn't he write? I'm probably killing the title. Shamati Shamat. There's another book. It's like a collection of.
It could be a son. I think his son said that.
Okay.
He had sons who wrote
There's a book.
after
It's a
he.
collection of different talks. Or
Yeah. I mean, there's several
And
books
then
that
there's
they.
like another book for social writings, but I don't think that's him. I think that's somebody else.
Well, he did write a book very similar to that, which has to do with giving up the Torah and what God's intention was when he gave the Torah. The idea here is, I'm telling you, this is the soul food. This is the thing to really, if you're learning regular Torah, you should dabble a little bit, keep your hand in it, cherish it, know that it's a special wisdom. You should have some kind of hand in it to some degree, as you go on, because really it is the wisdom of the soul. It's the food of the soul, and it's going to enable us to connect. And then when we connect, so then we see the world be redeemed. Good?
Thank you so much, Rabbi Cohen. That was an amazing class. We really appreciate it. Anybody in the mood for round 2 with the Kabbalah classes? Okay. Rabbi, there's a high demand for your content.
Oh,
So-
no.
Okay.
You guys, I thought you were all falling asleep on me.
No. It was amazing. Okay, next week there is no talk because it is going to be Tisha B'Av. On the topic of Tisha B'Av, I wanted you to know that it starts Monday night at 8:15. The fast begins Monday night 8:15, and it ends Tuesday night at 8:43. This is the saddest day in the Jewish calendar. In the future, it will hopefully be the happiest day in the Jewish calendar. There are a few things we avoid on this day. Okay, no eating, no drinking, no smearing any oils or creams of any sort, no wearing leather shoes, okay, no physical marital relations, and learning Torah is also problematic until midday. So if you are interested in learning anything, then you can learn those parts of text that deal with the destruction of the temple. I know a couple of the synagogues in Fondren Southwest, mine included, will be showing the annual Chafetz Chaim Heritage Foundation videos, incredible videos with top-notch international speakers. So if any of you is interested, just contact me either through Facebook or WhatsApp, and I'll let you know the schedule of when those video classes are taking place at the synagogues. So good luck, and thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you again, Rabbi Cohen, and have a great week, everyone. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was kind of